Welcome back to Radio Taiwan International. You're listening to Geek Out. What's your cup of tea, tickles your fancy, or floats your boat? Join us as we share passions from people in Taiwan and around the world. I'm your host, Michelle Chang, and today in the studio we have my wonderful coworker, Hanna Bilinski.
Hey, hey.
So what are we geeking out about today?
So we're going to geek out about smell.
This was, I heard this pitch and I was like, this sounds amazing. I was so weirded out for a second, but then let's listen.
It's just vague enough to be very exciting. So I actually did homework for this because I want to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, we don't always need to know what we're geeking out about. It's just something that we like to talk about. So.
Well, I went back. I read this essay from this old book written in 1990 that I really like. It's called A Natural History of the Senses.
Oh.
It's by Diane Ackerman, and it's really a great little collection of essays. It doesn't get like too technical or dry, but she provides a really great overview of kind of the science of your sensory organs. And in the section on smell, she delves into like perfume industry and like the history of humans applying fragrance. It's just really great geeky stuff.
It's interesting.
Yeah, there's so much to it.
Because I don't remember who said it this way, but smell is apparently like the most basal human.
Yeah, it's
sense?
like it's supposedly our most ancient sense. Like
Exactly.
Because it was like kind of the first one we had. And it's in like the very middle, most centermost part of our brain, that really primitive part. And the rest of our brain grew around it.
Yeah. Well,
so,
if you imagine babies, right? When we're born, our eyesight is actually really bad.
Yes.
Because our eyes are still developing and we're learning to recognize colors and shapes and things. But our sense of smell is fully developed at that age.
Yeah.
So all of those sensory inputs that we're taking in from the sense of smell can later be invoked. Which one is it?
I guess evoked would be right.
Right?
And with babies, I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, they can't see very well or very far, but they can identify their mother's smell, like the skin scent, just like that.
Of course.
Like, and if a baby's crying, if you give the baby like a shirt their mother wore, they'll calm down a little bit.
I actually did that when I babysat.
Yeah, it works.
I know, right? It's an actual trick.
Until they realize, wait a minute.
Well, I recently had puppies, which I'm sure listeners have heard about in various shows, but we send home things. Well, dogs are very different. Dogs, their whole life kind of revolves around the sense of smell.
Yes.
But we send them home to their new home with something that smells of their old home and mom in order to, bring them comfort.
It helps them adjust to the new environment. Yeah. Honestly, human sense of smell is really pallid in comparison to almost every other animal, especially animals that are low to the ground and they put their nose to the ground. They're going to be able to smell in way more high definition than us.
Oh, I like it. It's like HD. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and they can communicate all kinds of information that we can't pick up. There was a great part in Ackerman's essay where she was like, when I take my dog for a walk, and she marks a spot or she sniffs a spot another dog marked, she thinks of it as like posting on like
social media.
Yeah, it's like a forum post or or even like a personals,
My husband calls it reading the news.
It is. Or it's like a Twitter feed.
Right,
in a way.
Exactly. So whenever the dog goes down to the park, it's like she reads the local happenings of what's going on with the rest of the dog crew and she leads her own news. Exactly. It's like Twitter.
It's pretty cute. So I think smell is such a great topic because it's so bound to this part of your brain that is close to memory, whereas your other senses, they're connected to more closer to language and you're better able to describe things you see, things you touch, things you hear.
That's true.
You can't really describe a smell except relative to something else.
That's actually really true.
Yes, X smells like Y or like A smells like B, but you can't really describe it just in and of itself. It's very mysterious. But at the same time, when you smell something, you have like an immediate response. It will evoke something in you right away.
Right.
Especially a person, a place, an event, a time in your life.
An emotion.
Yes.
At least, yeah.
That's associated with that smell. It's really powerful. It can just conjure this up from nothing.
For example, I grew up as a kid who went to libraries. So if I get a whiff of books, actual physical books,
Yes.
the smell of what happens to paper when it ages,
Mm-hmm.
it just it's so. Here it is. We can't actually describe this feeling, right?
Exactly.
The like, what is that smell? And yeah, I feel nostalgic, comforted,
Right.
fascinated.
And I know exactly what you mean. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing I was going to bring up is every now and then I enter a room and it smells like my kindergarten classroom.
Oh,
And it's kind of like that smell of books, but
Mhm.
also crayons.
There's a
and
smell of
something
crayons,
else.
glue.
Yes.
So that's actually a good point. There's like a little bit of disinfectant.
Yes,
Is it-
yeah.
mhm.
And for some reason, even though I'm like 30 now, and in my 30s, I'm 5 again. It's
Right.
just that fast. I
Exactly.
smell it, and it just, I'm like, there's Mrs. Martin, my old kindergarten teacher, telling me to stop crying. I was a crier.
But it immediately brings you back.
Yeah, it immediately brings you back, and that's what's really awesome about smell. And you mentioned the smell of books. That's actually really popular right now among like fragrances.
Yes.
A lot of perfumers are trying to bottle the smell of paper because so many people like it.
Mm.
There's one, I think, Maison Martin Margiela, they have a series of fragrances called Replica where
Oh.
they replicate,
Right.
other smells that you are familiar with. And one of them is like a library.
Oh.
So you might be interested.
Oh, I do need to smell that. I mean, I'm familiar with Margiela from obviously clothing.
Right.
They design clothing, but
Yes.
a lot of the high-end fashion labels, they produce perfume.
Yes, they do.
So, but then it actually brings up, like, perfume-wise, some perfumeries, whatever you call them,
Mm-hmm.
allow you to mix your own scents.
Yep.
And I've always wanted to go do that,
I've never done it either.
right?
I thought about that before we had this discussion because there are these classes you can take that it's like a workshop.
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, I don't know if I could create an original fragrance. I feel like I would end up duplicating something I already like. It's really
Right,
hard
yeah.
I think, to come up with something new.
All of the perfumes, I'm just going to venture out to say, that are now very successful, bestsellers or whatever you want to call it, are probably combinations of scents that people already know and like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So-
They're always kind of riffing on something they've already done.
Of course. So if it's like something to evoke summer feelings, I'm sure there's tropical fruit and flowers and maybe some ocean and stuff like that thrown in there. It's just,
Right.
Nothing's original at this point. How do you invent an original smell?
Right. There's all kinds of like genres of fragrance.
Yeah.
Like people like different things. They might like a fresh one, a floral one. They might like one that's gourmand. It means it
Ooh.
smells like food.
Mhm.
It's just different strokes for different folks, But
course.
they often go back to old formulas. But at the same time, it's funny. When a fragrance gets really popular during a certain period of time, it tends to become so bound to that period of time that you can't really wear it later without evoking, say, for example, the
that's true.
80s or 90s.
Oh, like CK1.
Yes, CK1's a great example. Or like Clinique Happy.
Oh, yeah.
That was so popular for a while. I think my mother wore that for a while, and I can't smell that without thinking I'm 14 again. A lot of these fresh fragrances from that era, the 90s, the aughts, they kind of have to stay there in a way because they were so oversprayed at the time. If you spray it now,
That is
you're
so
like,
true.
it's a little old-fashioned.
I'm actually weird. I don't really wear perfume as a holdover habit from when I worked in the pet industry.
Yeah, you mentioned cats can't.
Well, cats,
Tolerate
dogs, and I used to have my hands in a lot of aquariums that have very sensitive animals in them.
Right.
So I actually wouldn't even wear lotion, which was a problem in the winter in Boston where everything gets chapped. But yeah, I haven't worn perfume in a really long time, and therefore I've gotten kind of sensitive to anyone who walks into the elevator in which I'm in, who is just like really sprayed down.
Oh God. No. I'm not this kind of person. I'm a smell enthusiast, but I'm not the person who's going to like just douse myself in something and really make others endure me. You know?
Right.
but I mean, I have some perfumes. I wear them occasionally. I'm very polite about it. I promise.
Nice.
But yeah, there are some people, they really overdo it.
Well, I think at the Queer Eye said you spray, sachet, and walk away.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's the way you're technically supposed to apply perfume is you spray it in front of you and you walk through the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
Or I think like the little ones with roller bottles,
Oh, yeah.
or you're supposed to put them at certain pulse points.
Yes, because that's where most of your body heat is generated.
But
so
very moderately, very small
Yeah,
amounts
just
of
a
it.
little
Little bit.
just a little bit. Otherwise, everybody's going to be like, man, what is going on?
Oh my God, I have a headache.
There's a fragrance in Taiwan
Mm.
that is really popular. I'm not going to name it
Okay.
because I don't want to offend anyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I can always identify it. It's always on young women, and it's a rose-based fragrance. And you'd think that I would like this. You know, everybody likes roses, or at least they're not opposed to roses. But the real rose always smells good.
Oh, the real rose is different.
It's different from how it is represented in perfume.
Right.
And every perfumer has a different way of formulating their molecule, I guess you could say, for the note for a rose that they use in a fragrance. And I don't know what this fragrance house does, but this perfume smells to me like a wet turd rolled in pollen. And every time a woman wearing this gets on my bus, gets on the MRT, sits next to me in the waiting room, or even just passes me in the street, I know she is wearing this because I'm like, that is that doo-doo rose that I can't stand.
I love.
And this fragrance has a chokehold on like the 20s to 30s bracket of women here.
Right.
And I just...
I think I know which perfume brand you're talking about.
I bet you know.
Right? I probably know. But that's also something that's interesting about smells. Perfumes are really personal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Each individual person will have different reactions to any perfume that they're trying or you're using. So, doo-doo rose.
Yes. But what's interesting too about this is there's kind of a chemical basis for me picking up like a poo smell from this.
Probably.
So this gets a little technical. This is why I went back to read.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so the rose, the flower itself, among other flowers that have a really potent fragrance, they have this compound in them called indoles, and that's what gives them that fragrance that you like. But at the same time, poop also contains a lot of indolic compounds.
This is fascinating.
Yes. So me picking up a fecal smell from roses
is actually not too far off.
Yes, it has a chemical basis. So I don't know what they did. Some perfume houses do a great rose note. That one I skip every time because I'm like, that's that wet turd rose that I don't like.
But I'm sure every perfume house goes through a lot of like beta testing.
Almost certainly.
Of course.
Almost certainly.
Because, they make a molecule, they got to test it to see how the market responds. And then they adjust it and then they test it again.
Just the tiniest bit. They'll use the same mixture, but then tweak it just so this way, that way.
Yep.
It's really technical.
I'm sure.
I've always thought like it would be so awesome to do that as a job.
Right.
But like I said, it would be so hard to come up with an original fragrance.
And I'm sure the instance comes up where, as you say, the real rose it smells different from our quote unquote artificial rose notes that are created for perfume. But I'm sure some of the test market prefer the artificial, kind of like strawberries and artificial strawberry flavoring. So artificial strawberry flavoring is really, really not strawberry, but a lot of people like it.
It's supposed to be like, I read something that was like the artificial banana flavor we know now is actually the way bananas used to taste a long time ago. Before we put it through God knows how many GMO type changes. Like it's supposed to represent that because of all the artificial flavors, I feel like banana departs the most from
it does.
The real thing.
It's pretty far.
And the strawberry artificial flavor usually tastes like erasers to me.
It doesn't?
For some reason.
It does a little.
But yeah, it's really hard for them to create like a convincing replica of the real thing. They have to use all of these tricks in the lab to do, I don't even know what. This technical side I don't know really that much about. But when you smell a perfume, you're really hardly smelling any of the real thing most of the time.
Yeah. It's an artificially produced set of molecules.
Right, and especially things like musk and civet and ambergris, things that are harvested from animals. That's obviously not humane, you can't really do. Back in the day, maybe they would do that, but not anymore,
Right.
Right. So now they've really just kind of got to do everything from scratch.
Well, it's a good thing in many ways.
It is.
Yeah.
No animal testing. That sounds not so good.
Yeah, not so good. So I did bring this up in the office earlier, but I have noticed that there are perfumers who are making alternative scents, such as, perfume with that's bacon scented.
So here's my take on that. I always got to take.
Yeah.
Always got to take. I am a proponent of freedom of smell.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to smell like bacon,
Smell like bacon.
smell like bacon. And there are way weirder things that people want to smell like.
Yeah.
There are people out there who want to smell like gunpowder. They want to smell like...
I like the smell of gunpowder.
Yeah. See, they want to smell like...
Baked goods.
No, but that's not even really weird.
Mowed grass.
It's really common to have perfumes with vanilla notes, chocolate notes.
True.
One of my friends loves anything that smells sweet. She wants to smell like a cupcake.
Right.
And what's really different from that and wanting to smell like bacon?
That's true.
If you want to smell like a food, that's the same kind of idea.
And it brings me around to say that to each their own, different strokes, different folks.
Totally.
But the person who will like your smell is then, I guess, right for you.
No, there is a little bit of something to that. We're not, like I said, humans don't have like a super advanced sense of smell. We're not like dogs or cats or bees or ants.
Yep.
It's just not like that for us. I imagine it would be really overwhelming if it was.
Oh, yeah.
But supposedly, if you enjoy or can tolerate another person's body odor, that's a good sign for your
genetic compatibility.
Correct.
Yes.
It means that immunologically, you are sufficiently diverse that you would create a more successful offspring that is more likely to be able to combat various pathogens.
Yes, this is the biological explanation for why we might like the way somebody smells.
Right. This is, the jury, I think, is still kind of out on that, but it seems to make sense because I've definitely been on dates with guys who were like, I think he's cute. I think he's great. He's got a good job, whatever. He seems nice and sane. But I
don't like the way he smells.
I don't like the way he smells, and it's really a deal breaker.
It is.
It is.
Definitely, because if you have to live with that.
How can you stand it?
Yeah.
Oh, God, another thing. I can't do foot stank.
Oh, okay.
Man.
That is one that's pretty bad.
Some people, I bless their heart. I know sometimes it's a condition. There's not much you can do, but man, I can't do the foot stank.
Okay, so least favorite smell then for me would probably actually be wet dog.
Really?
I have a dog.
You have a dog, yeah.
I've selected a dog that doesn't actually have dog odor. I own a Basenji, and they're known for not having a body odor, and I did that purposefully because my husband wanted a dog, but I hate the smell of wet dogs so bad. It's so gross.
Really? That's interesting because I was going to say, there are some smells that even though they're not necessarily pleasant, you might like due to
that's true.
association with something you enjoy. I was going to say, a lot of dog owners, they talk about the Frito paws.
Oh, yeah.
How their feet smell like corn chips.
Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because I own dogs, and to me, it's like, that's my little friend.
You open a bag of Fritos, it's like, oh, my friend.
Yes. So it's like human foot stank, no.
Yep.
Dog foot stank, great. Give me more of that. Wouldn't wear it, but I love it.
Favorite smells. To end the show, let's talk about our favorite smells.
So smells I love. I'm really sentimental about smell, of course, because who isn't?
Absolutely.
It's such a memory thing. I love smells that make me think of Taiwan.
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
Because when I was little, I'd come here in the summer, I'd visit my grandparents. They lived on the top floor, so they owned the roof.
Oh, nice.
This was in Geelong.
Yeah.
There was a garden on the roof that my grandma took care of. And it's always raining.
Of course.
In Geelong.
Absolutely. In Taiwan in general.
Yes. But especially in Geelong, it was always raining. And I love the smell of that garden when it's wet.
Yes.
It smells, it's not just flowers, it's a little bit of osmanthus, jasmine.
The smell of rain.
But not just that, but the wet dirt smell.
Yep.
It's like a little of everything. It's not just the vegetation, the fruit, it's the whole environment, even the asphalt a little bit.
Right.
I like that too. And the hint of like the ocean
Right.
in the air.
Oh, very true. Geelong does have the ocean in the air.
Yes, so that's that smell that I'm really kind of always chasing.
I bet you, yeah, you could build it.
Yes, yeah, maybe I could. Maybe it's an idea. But that's the smell I'm always chasing in my perfume. I'm always looking for these fragrances that remind me of being little again, being carefree. And like the way smell works, it's like my grandparents are alive again too.
Right.
You know, it's just nice. It makes me feel good.
Oh, it's lovely. I mentioned libraries earlier because that was always like one of those smells that made me feel like the world was my oyster.
Totally.
Right? Libraries. So that, and also my mom's kitchen. It's all like food smells.
What kind of food?
Asian cooking. So a lot of like onions and garlic and very potent aromatics and things. But there was always the smell of a little bit of Windex, like that cleaning agent.
Interesting. Okay.
And dishwashing detergent, that smell of rice.
Man.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. When you're
Totally.
steaming white rice, there is a smell of rice.
Yes.
So I guess it'd be much harder to build. Like
It's such a wonderful fragrance. I know exactly what you're talking
Yep.
about. It's so faint and just delicate. It just makes you, it's that little fluffy smell of rice.
But it's so positive because you know you're gonna eat soon.
That's right. It is. And I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So
Well.
that's the thing. Smell is nostalgic, you know, that
and
it
deeply
has,
personal.
it has that magic.
Yeah,
Yes,
it does.
It really does.
Thank you so much for geeking out with me.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was super fun.
I hope I didn't hype it up too much, but I still had a really good
And
time.
it's great. It's great. And thanks, listeners, for tuning into Radio Taiwan International. I'm Michelle Chang, and we'll be back next Thursday with another episode of Geek Out.